If you don't want to get type 2 diabetes because you think you're at risk, or maybe you already have type 2 diabetes, keep watching. And if you think you can't get type 2 diabetes, you definitely need to watch this. I'm Noko, an exercise physiologist. I help people reverse insulin resistance naturally. I'm going to give you 5 tips to prevent or reverse type 2 diabetes. Globally, there are over 400 million people with type 2 diabetes. And the numbers keep creeping up because the substance prescribed, because they're not addressing the real issue, which you control. Every day, you are faced with countless choices that can either increase or lower your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Let me explain. The cells in your body get energy from the carbs you eat. The carbs break down into smaller molecules called glucose or blood sugar. Insulin is a hormone that lowers blood glucose and allows glucose to enter your cells for energy. And that's the normal process. But here's the problem. The quality, quantity, and frequency of the carbs we eat leads to insulin resistance. The carbs we eat are processed. They are low in fibers, high in sugar, and very addictive. Even the produce we eat have been manipulated. If you look at the banana, they used to be mainly seeds. Carrots used to be mainly roots. What we eat today is low in fibers, low in nutrients. It means that every time you eat or munch on something throughout the day, you'll get spikes of glucose. Because your glucose remains high, your insulin will be chronically high. This leads to high glucose spikes. It keeps your insulin chronically high. The insulin will overwhelm the cells. Over time, your cells won't respond to insulin anymore. At this point, you become insulin resistant. And if this is not addressed, it leads to pre-diabetes and then type 2 diabetes. Here are 5 things you can do to prevent or reverse type 2 diabetes. Number 1, put the fibers back into your diet. Watch my other video that shows food high in fibers, or get a high quality blend of soluble and insoluble fibers. Number 2, eat fibers at the beginning of your meals. The top graph shows the glucose spike if you start your meal with the carbs first. The second graph shows what happens to your glucose when you start your meal with your fibers first. Here, the broccoli. Tip number 3, walk 10 minutes after your meals. On the top graph, you can see a glucose spike after eating a rice poke bowl. On the bottom graph, you see what happens to your glucose if you walk 10 minutes after your meals. Your muscles will absorb the blood glucose. Tip number 4, start intermittent fasting. Instead of having all those glucose spikes, and eat 2 meals a day. It will keep both your insulin and glucose low. And tip number 5, build muscle mass. Muscles are like sponges for glucose.